is The Gorge, a podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves on overanalyzing a game or game-related topic. The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/thegorgepodcast, and we have a bunch of stuff to give you if you decide to donate to us. Sara, what are we talking about today?
Today on The Gorge, we're going to be doing one thing and one thing only, Benjamin. Killing Nazis.
Alright!
Because we're talking about Wolfenstein, the New Order, and Wolfenstein, the New Colossus, for the Xbox One, PS4, and PC.
Yeah, and Switch soon for New Colossus.
Oh, that's right, because we live in a strange, bizarre version of reality where a Nintendo console might actually have third-party games. Who knows? Maybe.
They're getting Skyrim, Doom, and Wolfenstein 2.
Well, everything has Skyrim on it, so that's not too much of an achievement. I mean, in 2 years we'll probably have Skyrim for,
mobile.
Phones.
Yeah.
So yeah, how about it? Wolfenstein, let's get right into it, because,
yeah.
I don't really know where to start. I like it. I'm surprised how much I liked the New Order and the New Colossus. Yeah, I'm actually genuinely shocked by, I don't want to get too far into, actual critiquing just yet, by how much I really, really, really liked the New Order and how good the New Colossus was. There's a different magnitude of good going on. I definitely like the New Order more. Mm-hmm. I do. I
could see that, yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I like the New Colossus a bit more than the New Order, but they're very similar games.
Yeah, and they're so short. That's why we kind of have them in the same podcast.
Yeah, when you get down to it, there's not a whole lot of difference between the two of them.
Yeah. They refined the formula of play in the New Colossus more, and I appreciate that. There's a few things that they kind of stumbled out the block with the New Colossus. Now, of course, it's been getting accolades left and right, so what do I know? I'm not a professional game reviewer. But my general feelings toward the New Order as a complete package are a bit more fond than my feelings toward the New Colossus,
Yeah, I understand that.
Mm-hmm. But both games are good. They feel good to play. They're fast. They're modern. They're not your normal shitty Call of Duty kind of slow moving FPSs. They're very go go go, move move move. Do this, do that, shoot these guys, keep going.
They're a real good blend of combining. I guess the way I could put it would be they play the way that you think you remember old FPSs playing the way that you remember Doom and the Wolfenstein 3D, the way you remember playing them is what these feel like now.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, because they are, especially, and I haven't had a chance to actually play a lot of Doom 2016. I played the demo. I really like the new id games. I like Wolfenstein, and I like what I did play of Doom, because they are such a big departure from the other kinds of first person shooters out there. They have a good sense of speed. They have a good sense of old school mechanics. Health packs are back,
Yeah.
Shields are back, that kind of thing, but not regenerating shields, and not really there's a little bit of regenerating shields and there's a little bit of regenerating health, but it's a good, we mentioned it, we said in the notes, it's a good blend of modern shooter sensibilities of having a little bit of health regen and old school stuff like health packs lying around all over the place, and armor that can be replenished.
It makes you strategize, because now you're suddenly because you're in an environment where you kind of you get kind of a battlefield, a layout of the battlefield where you kind of running and gunning, and if you're in an area where you're going to be spending a lot of time in, you are kind of mapping it out as you go. Okay, well, I know there's a health pack in here, and I know there's a dinner roll on this table. I can pick that up and get 5 health, and then I can camp for a minute and get back the 20 or the 15 health for free. Mm-hmm. It's you kind of makes it a bit more strategic instead of waiting behind a cover and recovering all of your health. It's, okay, well, I know where I can get a little bit of health that I can then delay and let that regenerate fully.
Yeah, and it's a good way to force you to... It's a good way to make you move. I think one of the best things Wolfenstein does, and Doom 2016 actually does it even better, knowing what I know of the game, where both games are good at forcing you to navigate the battlefield instead of making you hunker down into a spot. There's a lot of enemies, especially in the new Colossus, that are great for forcing you to get the fuck out of the way and move to a different part of the map. There's a bunch of the flash-stepping robots, the different super soldats, the weird robot dog, but not the Panzerhund and not the big guy, the Liesel looking thing. I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah, I know what you mean, though.
It's the weird... I didn't even learn its name, and I wish I had, but they only start showing up in the last 2 levels, but they're they kind of remind me of the robots from Nier, except faster, because they're, like, short and fat and round, and they kind of, like, scamper around the battlefield in, like, a really creepy way. They kind of look like the big dog from the Boston Dynamics, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys. They are actually more formidable than you expect because they move really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these different enemy types do a good job of forcing you to stay mobile in a combat arena instead of camping down behind a piece of cover, which is usually what happens in stuff like Gears of War, because Gears of War is built for that. Gears of War is an actual cover-based shooter game. This is a hyper shooter.
Yeah, hyper shooter is a good word for it. Like,
yeah. I don't know if that's like the actual genre term for it, but I've been calling it a hyper shooter because it seems
like how Marvel is a hyper fighter. You know, Marvel's a hyper fighter, and this is a hyper shooter. Like that's a pretty good word for it.
Yeah, cool. I don't know. Hopefully, I didn't steal that from somebody. Maybe I coined it. I don't know. But yeah, it's that's what this is. It's a hyper shooter. It's meant to make you stay moving, make you stay fast. Always killing something. You know, you're not really supposed to be playing this slow and methodical. You can, but the game is not optimized for it.
Yeah, there's one of the big points is that like this game offers some slight stealth mechanics, but it is absolutely not built for stealth. Stealth exists to maybe take out 1 or 2 guys at first, and then immediately get seen.
Yeah, the stealth is there to help you get to maybe just the commanders and kill them quickly, and then deal with everybody else in the arena. And I enjoy it. I really, really enjoy... There's a few... At the end of the New Order and at the beginning, or kind of the middle half of the new Colossus, there are a few choke points that I don't think were designed that, and of course, I'm not a professional, what the fuck do I know? But I don't think they're designed very well to help you navigate the battle system. Granted, at the New Order, that's kind of the point, because it's the last areas are supposed to be like a test of how well you can manage the game. But I don't think the game gives you enough feedback to let you know when you're taking damage.
No, that's one of the biggest problems I had with it when I was first starting off with the New Order, for sure, is that you don't get a lot of... You get your obvious, your
blood splatters.
Blood splatter and your arrow pointing, like where you're taking the damage from, but you don't get a lot of feedback to how much damage you're taking, and it's very easy to not look down and get killed right away because you're taking direct fire and you don't even realize how much you're taking.
And I feel like some damage that you take in the game is not terribly balanced, but again, I might just be bad at this. I don't know.
It might just be trying to make the game, play the game in a way that they don't want you to play, and they're trying to make you adapt to it in a different way.
Yeah, and once I started, actually, it's funny because you watched me play the first 2 to 4 hours-ish of the New Order, and I kind of was latched onto the assault rifle. And at the end of the new Colossus, actually, I made a total shift in playstyle, and I switched over to the shotgun.
Well, the shotgun, it's kind of funny, because like the shotgun in the New Order is awful, and the shotgun in the new Colossus is great. Once you get that 3-shot, that triple shot, you can take down the super soldats in 3 shots.
Yeah, it's a little insane how crazy.
You get close, 1, 2, 3, they're dead.
Yeah, and it's really nice because it's a good way to, again, you have to get close though, so it forces you to get up off your ass and get in their face, and then just remember where all of your different health sources are. Another thing that the game does that I think is really, really smart, especially if you pick a certain contraption, which we'll get to in a minute, if you pick a certain contraption and the game is really generous with armor drops, like especially the super soldats, and all of the different robot types, they drop a lot of armor, and that's a good... It's clearly taken from Doom, and I don't know if you know about Doom 2016, but in Doom 2016 they encourage you to get up in enemies' faces when you're low on health.
Yeah, because you do
play more aggressively. Yeah.
Yeah, you do the executions and they give you health.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like that here, where if you get in the faces of the robot types and the super soldats, they'll drop a lot of armor, and so you kind of recoup that damage you took from them in another way. And I really, really like that. And it, especially toward the end game, it makes it, like, the game is a lot of fun to play toward end game. Less so in the New Order. The New Order's endgame is fucking, again, maybe
it's
I'm
brutal.
Bad at it. It's brutal, though, and I think that's the point. I think it's supposed to be brutal, because everybody talks about it. But, boy, it is rough in a few places. There's, like, that final hallway between you and Death's Head that is just god-awful, and
oh, yeah.
so hard! Come on, machine games. Let me live. Let me feel like I'm good at video games. I was doing fine in that whole game. I was doing well in that whole game until Death's Head Compound, and then suddenly it was like, I don't know how to play shooter games anymore. This is fine. I clearly have no idea what the fuck I'm doing in Wolfenstein anymore.
Well, and they also... There's a few things that I think are missteps, and I think one of them is the kind of promoting the dual-wielding guns, which ends up not being very useful. Like, you chew through ammo too quickly, you lose the ability to aim down sights, and it's not... especially in the new Colossus, where it feels like reloading is so much quicker, that I dual-wielded in, like, the first level, and then never touched it again.
Yeah, I don't think I dual-wielded a single time during the new Colossus, now that I think about it. I dual-wielded a few times toward the end of the New Order, because I was just so desperate to try some kind of new tactic to get me through those few hallways in Death's Head's compound, that I was just like, I'll try anything! And it worked out, actually. It did actually end up working out. But, the way I play the new Colossus, it just really wasn't conducive toward using that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I really, really appreciate that the new Colossus carries over your guns per level, and you don't have to go and find your weapons again. I don't know. I kind of liked that aspect about the New Order, and because it made you experiment with different weapon types. Like, you never got too comfortable, which I did often in the new Colossus. Like, I'm guilty of it. I only used, like, 2 weapons the whole game. You know? Yeah, I just feel like it was kind of redundant, because in the New Order, you tended to find your weapons pretty easily anyway. After your first group of enemies, you were gonna find your assault rifle again, or your machine pistol. So, like, it was kind of like it wasn't like, say, we'll talk about this more later, but, like, it wasn't like, say, Bioshock Infinite, where there were a whole ton of different weapon types, which, one of the things I will say about Infinite is that they did have a lot of weapon variety. This one doesn't, so there's not really a reason to try to scavenge your weapons, because you only have, 5, 6 to pick from? Something like that. Pistol, submachine gun, assault rifle, shotgun, and then the new Colossus has the grenade launcher as well. Yeah, in the new Colossus has your standard suite, and then the grenade launcher, and they removed the sniper rifle and turned that into a mod for the assault rifle, which I have mixed feelings about. Mostly because the whole point of a sniper rifle is that it's a single shot kill, and it's a pretty substantial thing. But in the the new Colossus, just turning your assault rifle into a sniper rifle does not turn it, if you add a scope to it, that doesn't make it like a one-shot headshot kill anymore.
Yeah,
it's still underpowered like a assault rifle typically is, I
have mixed feelings about putting the assault or the sniper rifle in the game in general, because you're not doing, besides the one area on the bridge in the New Order, you're not really put in a lot of big open environments that a sniper rifle will benefit you.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I really liked about the New Order is that toward the end of the game, it had an alternate mode where it could shoot electric rounds.
Yeah,
and I really liked that. I mean, I actually ended up using that gun a lot toward the
end
of the game.
I used that for the electric rounds way more than the actual sniper rifle. And
I like just having the sniper option for clean it for like crowd control and cleanup and that kind of thing. The more weapon modes a game gives me, the better, I think. Even if it is just something as simple as a sniper rifle, you don't use that often. So, like I said, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about a few things about the new Colossus. I think, for the most part, it was a very successful endeavor. But there just is a handful of hiccups and missteps. We mentioned this to each other, but I feel like there are way more commander sections in this game.
Yeah, I thought about it after you said that, and I think you're right, and I think after I kind of internally debating it, I really hope they overhaul the commander system for the third game.
Yeah, me too. I don't like them.
It's because it's not. It's a thing that, the way it's presented is, okay, kill the commanders to stop them from calling in more enemies. That's something more in tune for a stealth game.
Yeah.
Than what Wolfenstein is trying to be, which is run and gun, kick down the door screaming as you unload your assault rifle.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I'm sure somebody will just tell me to get good, and that's fine. You can tell me to get good. I definitely need to get good, but
there's a bit in the new Colossus where I kind of really realized this, and that is when you're on spoilers, when you're on Venus, and there is a bit in an atrium area.
Yeah.
There is a commander in kind of a suite, off there. The way that you enter that area, there is no conceivable way to get to that commander without being spotted. The way the enemies are placed and the way that their patrols are set up, you cannot make it there without getting seen. There are guards on railways above you. There are guards on the ground floor beneath you. You can kill a few enemies, but you're gonna be spotted.
Yeah.
So it's I've never ever. I think maybe I did it in the New Order a few times, but in the new Colossus, I never killed the commanders without sounding the alarm.
Oh,
I couldn't do it.
I can. I mean, I have a few success stories because but again, I'm also a huge save scum fiend. And because the new Colossus lets you save scum, I can just do that. I can make my way through and see kind of what everything, the layout looks like, and then reload and try again. And I'm sure that's not what they wanted with the design ethos of this game, but fuck you, if you're gonna let me save scum, I'm gonna save scum. And I had some good successes with taking things out silently. The problem is that the game doesn't tell you a few things that make commander hunting in silence a little bit easier. Did you know if you shoot at a wall with a silenced gun, it acts as a distraction for guards?
No, I did not know that, and that might have come in handy.
It helps a lot. Yeah, they don't tell you these things. I had to wait until... And this is a problem that Bethesda had in The Evil Within. And it's a problem that kind of keeps cropping up. And I know that we're trying to take down the number of tutorials in a game. I get that, because video games these days are way too overly tutorialized. I understand that. But Bethesda has a bad problem these days. it's like in the Evil Within, like I said, of not telling you everything and waiting until you find it out in a fucking loading screen, which is where I learned that silence tip. The loading screen is what tells me if you shoot at a wall with a silenced weapon that can act as, like, basically kind of the same way as, like, throwing a rock in, like, a Far Cry game.
Right.
And then the guards will come and check that out. Like...
Yeah.
Like, that's not a thing they teach you, and there's no way, and they didn't find a way for them to organically teach you that, the way, like Bloodborne games are good about teaching you organically how to do a thing. The new Colossus and the New Order didn't tell me that, so I had to figure it out through a fucking load screen, and I don't like being told how to do a thing in a load screen, you know?
Yeah, it's... There are certain games where, like, you kind of need to tell the player you can do that, because unlike a game like Bloodborne or say, something like Breath of the Wild, where, like, the point of the game is to explore and find new ways, you know, Wolfenstein's a shooter. It's not a physics-based game. It's not like, you know, you're trying... It's not like a Half-Life or something where you're encouraged to try throwing boxes at people or, you know, or whatever. It's you're given a gun and you're told to kill Nazis. Yeah. And so if you have an outside mechanic like that, like, oh, guards will be drawn to the sound of a silenced round hitting the wall, you need to tell us that, because we as the player won't consider that an option because of the style your game is in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no way for me to learn that organically without you giving me some kind of a hint. Because otherwise, the default way of traversing through this game is kill them all as noisily as possible.
Yeah, it's you know, it's like you know, if you were to play, say, Metal Gear Solid 5, you would think, oh, I can probably shoot this wall and it'll draw the guards, because, you know, that's something
the kind of game.
Yeah, that's the kind of game where everything is context sensitive like that, but not really in Wolfenstein, where guards don't even really care if they see dead bodies.
Yeah, which is weird. Now, they do mention that actually they do fix that better in the new Colossus. Like, they're better about that, smarts, like, guard smarts wise. But it's still not like a full stealth suite, you know? Like, there's still not... It's not built for stealthiness, and so these kind of... They're not technically... So I can't really hold this against them. These are not technically for stealth sections. Because you can totally... I mean, and there's a few points in the game where I just said fuck it and just walked into the door and started killing everybody.
Yeah, I mean, eventually I'm just like, well, you know what, whatever. I'll handle a few more guards and I'll just kill these guys here and now and be done with it.
Yeah, and you can kind of kill... You can stealth kill your way through, like, half of them, so then you have less people between you and the commander. I mean, there's all sorts of different options like that, and I appreciate that. But, it's still just... They're not technically forced stealth sequences, but they feel like forced stealth sequences, and they tend to kind of break the game flow in a weird way, because instead of, like, tightly designed encounters like what we got at the end of the New Order, which are hard, yeah, but they're designed encounters. They're meant to be like, well, this is where this is, and blah-de-blah. Instead, you have basically, like, eternally randomly spawning enemies, and I'm not fond of them. I don't kind of like the way they changed the formula up from just fun shooting sections, you know?
I feel like there's a potential to make the commander mechanic, like, more of a challenging thing, but I don't exactly know how they can fix it, because I like the idea of kill this commander to make it easier on you somehow. But, like, I don't know how exactly they can do it, you know?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just know that there's too many of them. Maybe what it is that I didn't really have a problem with the commander sections in the New Order, because there were really only, like, 1 or 2 per level. So they were kind of, they were like a thing that would come up, and they were usually in these big open areas, and you kill that commander, and that would handle the randomly spawning areas. And then everywhere else in the game was designed encounters. So you come into an area, and those enemies are just supposed to be there. They don't just randomly spawn.
Yeah.
So, like, 1 or 2 per level was manageable, because they were usually put in arenas that were built around the idea that if you trigger the commander, then you're still in a combat arena that's made for these big spawning things. But I swear to God, there's like 5 or 6 per level in the new Colossus. They've replaced them.
You get them frequently, way more frequently in the new Colossus.
It's like every area every little area of a level has one, and I'm just like, I don't like them. I don't, because they just don't feel, they kind of, like I said, they break up the fun of the game. And the game is super fun when it's just letting you shoot shit without having to worry about triggering alarms and stuff. The game is a lot of fun.
The real thrill of this game is being like unhindered in your ability to just run around an environment and pick guys off as you encounter them, you know?
Yeah. So, like, you know, like you said, I don't know how they would change the encounters to make them more, like, fast and friendly, but that's not really my job. I'm just here to criticize.
Basically. Now, the other thing is that I think for the new Colossus at least, is that I like the contraptions, but they should have come earlier.
They definitely should have come earlier, like the beginning of the game.
Yeah, they should have been something that was introduced really early on, because, you know, they're fun to explore, and you only really get them in, like, 2-3 story missions if you don't do any of the assassination missions.
And the assassination missions are mostly just... Now, the assassination missions are revisiting old areas. Like, there's no new areas. I did a few before we started.
No, there are some new areas.
Before we did this, because I just wanted to see what they're like.
Hello?
There are no new missions. There are no new areas. It's all just...
I'm sorry, I'm losing you a little bit.
Sucks.
Hold on.
Are there?
There are new areas. Yeah, there are new areas.
Really? Because I looked through the list and they were all in the same. They were all in the same stuff, like New Orleans.
There is.
Venus.
There are. I know there's one in Texas at least. If you go to the Texas ones for the Blazkowicz house, it is on a film studio instead.
Really? Okay. Well, then I take it back.
So
I'll change my opinion on that one.
I know there are some that have been recycled, but I think there are like new parts of that area you go to. Like, well, you go to the same like areas, but they're different layouts, basically.
Yeah,
I did a few.
One in New York, and I did 2 in New York, and I did 1 in Roswell.
Yeah, I did one in Venus, and it was not... I don't think it was an area I've actually been to in the Venus map. So I think they're just reusing assets to build new little arena areas.
Okay, then I take it back.
Yeah.
Cool. Though I'm still gonna be nitpicky. I wish there were a few new areas. Like, not just Venus and Roswell and all that stuff. Like, give me one in Florida or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Something completely different, not just reused assets. Build some new assets to incentivize me to actually go and do these things, because otherwise they really don't even give you anything unless you... Now, there are 2 missions. I didn't do the 2 missions.
They're just... They're just...
That get you the other 2 contraptions, because you can get the other 2 contraptions if you do certain missions. But otherwise, you really don't get anything out of it. It's just like satisfaction, I guess. It's a chance to play more of the game, which is just for some people is good enough. But incentivize me a little bit more. Give me a new area to see, you know?
I'm losing you a little bit, but I think you're good now.
Am I good?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, like, you know, beyond that, like, both of these games play so similarly that there's not much to say, like, you know, comparing them. Like, it's very much the same. And you played them both back to back, which must be really interesting, because, like...
Yeah, I felt like I was going a little cross-eyed toward the end of it. Like, I couldn't sleep at night, like, because I was just like, oh god, the music is so, like... And, like, it's just go, 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 shoot, shoot, shoot. And I was just like, by the time I was done with it, I was, like, a little, like, adrenaline high. And, especially because the end... we'll get to it in a minute, but parts of the ending of the new Colossus are pretty fucking satisfying. But, like, boy, it is a lot, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot.
So, do you want to do the story stuff or, like, the more presentation stuff?
There isn't a lot to say about presentation stuff. I like the look of the game. Well, gonna walk that back a little bit. I like the look of the game of the New Order more than the new Colossus. They're just, I don't know, maybe I'm just kind of like blurring everything together again, because again, I played these games fucking back to back. I feel like there was less level variety, like visual variety and levels in the new Colossus versus the New Order.
Oh, I mean, you go to a lot of facilities in the new Colossus for sure.
There's a lot of facilities.
But the walk around in Roswell
but it was
incredible.
Just one little area. It was like going to a Disneyland ride.
New York.
Yeah.
The bombed out New York. The streets in New Orleans.
I get you. I mean, I do. I get what you're saying, but I feel like New York was too short-lived, because then they pretty quickly put you back in the subway, so you're in basically glorified sewers. And then, like, New Orleans is fine, but it's just another bombed-out area. It wasn't... It didn't seem too visually like, this is New Orleans, you know? I had, like, a few parachute-looking things in the double level areas. But I don't know. I wish New Orleans hadn't been quite so obliterated, so you could get a sense of it really is New Orleans.
Yeah. And I think the moon was way more impactful than
Venus?
Going to Venus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, granted, Venus had a much cooler opening bit,
yes,
but we'll get into that later. But yeah, like actual traversing the Venus level was not as like wow as it was when you went to the moon level and you did the walk around outside the planet.
Yeah, because one, they make you deal with a fucking mini game on Venus where you have to keep cool, and that's not fun. Like, sorry, that's another thing that breaks up the pace of gameplay. Don't do that. I get that you're trying to, like, create some kind of tension, like, oh man, can I do this before doing that? Don't do it. Just don't even fool with it. It's not fun. It's basically the equivalent of a timed level, and nobody likes timed levels. Sorry. And Venus is all fucking, like, cloudy and shit, so you don't even get to see space. The moon is like, here's this big, bright, clear area. You can see Earth, and you're on the moon, and holy shit, you know? You jump around, and there's low gravity, so BJ jumps further, and he runs faster. That's cool. Venus was just really underwhelming in that.
Yeah, it did not
sense.
have the impact.
And it was just more facilities, you know? It starts,
yeah.
It has a few cool hallways at the beginning, but it's just more facility levels, and eventually it all kind of blurs together. It's like, I already did this. It was on the moon, you know? So, like, I don't know. The game itself looks a lot better than the new Colossus, or not the other way around.
Yeah, it is. Everything is a bit more polished in the new Colossus. You know, and I think that the bombed out New York is like, you know, they set out to, like, they want, like, in the interviews, like, we want to make this look like an alien world, and I think they did an incredible job with the outdoor environments in New York.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was the cool warped buildings were amazing.
Yeah, the melting steel that, like, actually twists and bends into, like, these spires almost.
Like waves, yeah.
Yeah, and even when you are in the subways, there's one area I noted that, like, really got me, and that is, there's, like, a little corner tucked away where you can see a bunch of corpses.
Yeah.
And there's, like, laundry hung above them.
Yeah, like they were living down there for a while.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, the way it looks, it's all decrepit and worn down. It's like, yeah, you were living down there, but they were still very clearly infected, you know, radiation sickness, and, you know, like, they weren't down here for long.
Yeah, yeah.
And, yeah, like, it's funny because, like, you know, Bethesda's the producers of the New Order, of the new Colossus, of the Wolfenstein games, and, like, this one area in New York is more visually pleasing than, like, anything in Fallout 4. Yeah, like, all of Fallout 4.
All
like,
of Fallout 4?
It's like, we want to make a post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear, you know, Fallout thing, and here's, like, one of our levels, compared to your entire game, and it's like, which one looks more devastated? Which one looks more beautiful? It's fucking Wolfenstein.
It's fucking Wolfenstein. Now, of course, that's because Wolfenstein are designed levels versus open world. I get it.
Yeah.
But definitely a better art direction in this game.
Oh yeah,
in general.
the aesthetic, and like, I'm really excited to get my hands on the art book for these games because, like,
yes,
it's fucking. I've seen pictures from the art book, and like, this is one of the few games in existence that is like, our game looks like our art book.
Yes, it actually manages to get that same. Like, I sent you a screenshot when I was in the middle of playing it, and it looked like a fucking piece of concept art.
Yeah, it looked like concept, like straight up looked like concept art. Like the fucking, this is something I've talked to you about, like, and I talked about this before I even played it during our Fallout thing, where I'm gushing about the cutscenes in Wolfenstein, in the Wolfenstein games, and I think it's funny because we mentioned very like early on that this game feels like a retreading of what made the old, first-person shooter games of yore good. I feel like the cutscenes are kind of the same approach because I think ever since the advent of Half-Life, games have really, really been leaning hard on in-game cutscenes that don't take away the camera from the first-person perspective,
right.
And, being dropped down into Wolfenstein and, it's just a regular old cutscene that is choreographed and the camera is in a position to get the best angle. It's like, it's been a while since I've actually seen these.
Yeah, and it's nice. Like, it actually works really well. It feels professional. The cutscenes themselves are directed well, like a movie directed.
Yeah.
With smart camera moves and just they're paced well. Everything moves at a good clip, especially in the New Order. Those cutscenes just kind of snap back and forth, and it all feels kind of poppy and alive.
Whenever they do like a mission briefing, and they're all leaning over the map table, and they're going back and forth about what to do and everything like that. They're really, really good. They're well done.
They're well done. Especially the music helps a lot. The music is really, really good. That song that plays in those mission briefing sequences is called the Christ Out Circle, and it's really good.
The fucking music in this game is just perfect.
Like flawless. Like in both games, it's just like yeah, keep it going.
I gotta ask though, what did you think of the ending credits theme in the new Colossus?
Garbage. Garbage. I hate it. I've never rolled my eyes harder in my entire life. I was almost like, I'm about to turn this fucking piece of shit off. Are you kidding me? A shitty punk cover of We're Not Gonna Take It? Honestly, you couldn't just buy the rights to We're Not Gonna... It's a metal cover, excuse me, and I don't like metal music.
I don't like metal either, but I listen to that and I'm like, okay... Because it's Wolfenstein, like, yeah, you're gonna put, like, the metal version of it in.
No, just buy the rights to We're Not Gonna Take It.
Then I listen to it, like, the next morning on my drive to work after beating it, and I'm like, oh, this is awful.
It's garbage. It's trash. From the word go, I hate that fucking song. I do not like it. I've never rolled my eyes harder. Just because it's bad. Like, and the end
it's a bad cover.
It's a bad, awful, like, because, like, 80s cover, like, modern covers of 80s songs are so fucking in vogue now, like, everybody's gotta do it, and some people do it better than others. Ironically, Bethesda, had a really great cover of Goldust Woman for Dishonored 2, and they just couldn't capture that magic again, I guess, because, boy, that cover of We're Not Gonna Take It fucking sucks, man.
Yeah,
It's bad. Like, it's cringy bad. Like, I was just like, oh no, what are you doing? Why replace this?
No, I will say the visuals in the end credits are fucking...
They are dope as shit, for sure.
Those are a bunch of desktop wallpapers that I want.
Yeah, they actually managed to make the credits look really, really, really cool. Especially after they were so, like, nothing at the end of the New Order. Although the end of the ending song of the New Order is way better, even if it did bum me. Even if it bums me right the hell out. Like, because if you listen to the lyrics, you're like, this is the saddest song I've ever heard in my entire life. But the song is way better because it's an original song written for the game and not a terrible cover. Horrible. So bad. But the ending, the actual credit sequence was really, really cool. So I'll give them that.
Yeah.
But take away that fucking cover. What the fuck are you thinking?
That was one of the things where I'm listening to it and I was riding the high of what actually happens in the ending of the game. Right. And I'm like, yeah, metal cover! And then I listened to it the next morning and I went, oh, I'm gonna find the Twisted Sister version and just listen to that instead.
Yeah, it's way better. Just get the version instead. Come on, it's Twisted Sister. But otherwise, the music in the game is super, super good, and there's just it just really it kind of blends into the background perfectly.
And I gotta say that, everything, the character designs, the enemy designs, the guns are awesome looking.
Oh man, the guns are great. They're perfect.
They look super cool. I love the shotgun in the new Colossus. I love the way it looks.
The best part of the guns, I have a big problem with this in a lot of video games. I don't like guns that take up too much of my screen. And this game does not have that problem. I'm really glad. The big guns are not so big that they they impede on my general field of vision. The game did a really good job with just that, with the whole smart decision of the guns. And they look great, especially the shotgun. And yeah, although I wish the double barrel shotgun would come back because it was beautiful.
I do too. It's a classic, and it's
beautiful. It's so pretty in the New Order. Bring that back. Let me pick a loadout. That was what I would really like to be able to do.
That would be nice. Yeah,
I would like to be able to. And this is such and of course it's a game punishing thing, so I'm sure they'll never do it. And I'm not a game designer, so what the fuck do I know? Again, but I like the idea of 10 weapons, but 5 weapon slots, so you're not stuck with, the 2-gun limit from, fucking Halo, so you still have, a big variety of guns you can take with you, but you can pick the guns you want to take instead. I would like that.
That would be really nice.
Because then you could bring back the laser rifle from the New Order, you could bring back the double barrel shotgun, stuff like that. I'd just like to kind of have a little bit more variety. But otherwise, what else? What else design-wise? Seriously, the design of the game is so, so good. It's just really just on point, perfect, what I mean?
Walking around the Ava's hammer in the new Colossus and seeing how everyone has decorated their rooms and how the bar is set up, it's it's so perfect.
It's perfect. I really liked, I'm glad they carried that over, and I had a feeling, of course, they would carry it over from the New Order, but it was one of my favorite parts of the New Order, were the little quiet moments between levels, because the levels themselves are go, 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 shoot, 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 loud, oh my god, so bombastic, but the little quiet bits in between, in the Ava's Hammer and stuff, or in the Chrysal headquarters in the New Order, were really necessary. They kind of give you some breathing room to actually get to know these crazy people, because the character writing in this game is pretty strong. Yeah. And the design of every room is really smart. That said, I feel like I keep going back to this. I really liked the Chrysal headquarters more than I liked the Ava's Hammer, but that's a personal thing, because I thought the Chrysal headquarters was a little bit more cozy. It wasn't so hard to navigate. The Ava's Hammer.
Yeah, you know what? I will admit that, I played the entire, I never, ever memorized the layout of the Ava's Hammer.
Yeah, it's actually pretty hard to get around sometimes.
Yeah, I'm it's okay, go talk to Set. Oh, where's Set's lab? Oh, no.
Yeah, it's pretty big. So, but, it's not that I disliked it, I just like the little tiny the coziness of the Chrysal headquarters more. But it is still fine. I mean, it's still really cool, so it's fine, the Ava's Hammer is rad. Clearly in 3, if we get 3,
it'll be the thingy at the end of the game, yeah.
Yeah, you'll get the Outsmester instead, that's not a spoiler, that's the most obvious thing in the entire world when you play this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But otherwise, I really enjoyed just exploring the game. And this kind of comes back to a gameplay thing, but it's also a presentation thing. One of my major beefs with this game, and kind of with its level design, because I do think that the new I'm talking about the new Colossus, not the other one, the New Order. I haven't played the Old Blood. I want to. Is the level design is kind of bland, and that the game does not lend itself to collectathon.
Like, you mean in the new Colossus? There's not enough. Yeah.
No, and I mean there's a lot of collectibles in the new Colossus, but the pacing of the game.
Yeah, it doesn't lend itself for you actually going and exploring the areas to find the collectibles. It's very pushing you to go ahead. Unlike less so in the New Order. That kind of gave you a bit more like pathways to explore.
And there were less collectibles in the New Order, and I guess they kind of wanted to establish this world a little bit better, and props to them for that. But I don't know. I'm a little iffy about it because they don't stand out very well, and I'm fucking blind, Bethesda. You have to give me a flashlight because I am fucking blind, and like especially in the dark parts of like New York and shit, I can't find anything. Like I'm just blind.
Now I will say that what I do like is that the collectibles have no in-game value. So you don't feel like you're besides the upgrade kits for your weapons, which those are pretty obviously like you know them when you see them. They're not like collecting the gold or the notebooks for art cons and stuff like that. Like you'll know an upgrade kit when you see one, and it's placed in an area that you would expect to find a toolbox,
Right, yeah.
So like you don't feel like you're missing out on like gameplay stuff when you don't find the collectibles, but if you are someone who likes to make sure all your numbers are filled out, then you're gonna have a problem with that.
You're gonna have a heck of a time because it's not and I mean like that's part of I guess why the commander missions are the way they are, because they let you revisit areas that you've missed. Like I've picked up stuff in the commander missions that I did play that I missed the first time around, so I get that. I guess that's why. So you can also kind of explore the areas a little bit more. So I can't hold it against them too much, and it's all just flavor stuff, so it's not like that important. But if you like collecting shit, like maybe make it stand out a little bit more. I know it has like a shine, but this game is really pretty, and so little things like that can just slip you by.
There were a lot of times where I was like scrounging for ammo, and it's like my reticle said press square to collect gold.
Yeah.
And I was like, where?
What? Where? Yeah. Or like press or like hold square to inspect, and it's like, oh, I guess there's a thing around, but I couldn't even like find it. I was just like blindly pressing it. It's like, there's a newspaper.
One of these things in this pile is for me to read. I don't know what I'm looking at, but
but it's fine. I guess BJ can see it. That's all that matters. BJ's got X-ray vision through corpses. It's fine. But otherwise, I mean, like the game itself is beautiful, and its design is just on another level. It's incredible. They should just smush Machine Games and Arcane together to make a Fallout game, because clearly Bethesda can't be trusted to do it anymore. Yeah,
like it's time to become a producer and just let other studios do it, because they would do a much better job.
Yeah. Either one of those companies would do a better job of it than Bethesda. It's fine. That's another conversation for another day. We've talked about Fallout 4 enough on this fucking podcast.
Yeah. So let's get a little heavier. Because I got some shit to say about this fucking story.
I got some shit to say, too.
Which is, like, it's surprising.
Yeah.
It is surprising how... Because, it's Wolfenstein, and I know you didn't grow up with it, but I grew up, experiencing Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein 3D is one of the first games I ever actually played, and it's, I've seen, like, them try to bring it back, and it's a bunch of generic shooters on Xbox.
Oh god, Wolfenstein 2011.
Yeah, the Return to Castle Wolfenstein, just these attempts at reviving an old franchise, and then, the New Order comes out, and the first thing you get is BJ giving this monologue with, death at the gates. Yeah. And you're like, what is happening? And then you get this character who is gone from being this this caricature of, run and gun shoot man that every generic bald-headed muscle-bound FPS guy is based off of, and suddenly he's like this really endearing and compelling character.
Yeah, BJ is incredibly compelling in the New Order in the first half of the new Colossus.
It's very interesting. Like, it's a guy who's a death seeker who is struggling to complete his task in life.
Yeah.
And it's, and this applies to all the characters. Every character you meet in the Kreisau Circle, every character that you meet in your in the new Colossus, they all have these great, strong personalities and character development and, fully realized individuals. Even the guys walking around the base that you don't actually really interact with are all given, in the new Colossus, they're all given names. They all have conversations with each other, and it's like, you can get to know these guys a little bit.
Yeah, you can actually eavesdrop in on their conversations on the Ava's Hammer and listen to just like the little things they have to say. They have personality quirks, they have backstories, they've got issues. And it's really cool. I mean, part of what made the New Order so great was that this was like supposed to be, your cliche first-person shooter game with a plucky resistance members, and they're all like a ragtag band, and it's a story you've heard 100,000 times before. But what kind of sold you on it was that these were people who were just tired and worn down by what the world wanted from them, and they were fighting more because it was the only thing they could do. They knew how to do. And that made them feel like compelling people instead of just like caricatures of the badass resistance later lady. And it's what really made the New Order so kind of shocking. I mean, it caught everybody off of guard. Nobody expected Wolfenstein to be this deep rumination. I mean, it's not terribly deep. It's still just a Wolfenstein game.
Yeah, no, it's not, the most thought-provoking game in existence, but it goes deeper than you would expect.
Yeah, and it's a good rumination on just kind of, how exhausting it is to constantly be on guard and be fighting all of the time. And it's really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. I liked a lot of the plot up until a point. But I'm not gonna bring anything down just yet. I'll get to that in a minute. Because I do really, really like the plot of the New Order a lot. I mean, a lot. It's so well done, and so every character is introduced with these kind of really great character quirks, and they've all got problems, and everybody is just kind of struggling to get by. And I loved it. I mean, I really, really loved that game. And now that I've kind of got some spare time, now that I'm not burning my way through both games in this franchise in 2 weeks, I'd like to go back and give it, kind of play it again, both of them again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give it another go around, and it's they mentioned this a lot in the interviews for this game leading up to the new Colossus, where it's and I'm not going to talk about this in too depth because we try to keep things apolitical here, but I think the few times we have brought it up, on the Twitter or on the podcast, I think our stance on Nazis is pretty clear.
Fuck Nazis.
Yeah, I think that's, we've made that a point very clear, and I appreciate Machine Games and Bethesda not even remotely trying to back down with the new Colossus. Nope.
Because the franchise has always been like that. That's the thing.
And it's they're not making any drastic changes depending on the current political climate or whatever. They're going for it.
Yeah, they're making they're making the statement they've always made since even before all of this shit that's been going on lately. Their statement has always been fuck Nazis. The first game was pretty unapologetic about the fact that Nazis exist to be killed. That's it. The Nazis in Wolfenstein exist to die. And they are all killed off in incredibly brutal ways in both games, and they that's not a stance that changes,
And they did a very good job of making characters like Death's Head and Engel, making them more or less characters. They even did the same thing with Hitler, actually, in the new Colossus, where they made them outlandish and, you know, overdramatic.
Cartoonishly evil.
Yeah, but they're not, like, jokes. They're still very intimidating and very terrifying.
They're Mel Brooks, obviously. We all know who Mel Brooks is. Blazing Saddles, all that stuff. Mel Brooks was pretty adamant about turning the Nazis into a joke, because that's how you kind of beat them at the end of the day. You make them into cartoon characters. And Mel Brooks is, you know, an actual Jewish man who survived the 40s to make amazing movies, and it was his stance to always make the Nazis a joke and always make fun of them. And I think that's what even when Engel and Death's Head and Hitler his fucking self are at their scariest, they are still cartoon characters that exist to be mocked and killed.
They're still, like, they are not tougher than BJ.
No, they are things that can easily, they just surround themselves. They're little pathetic people who surround themselves with lots and lots of numbers, and they've got all this influence, and that's what makes them strong. It's not that they have any strength of character or strength of convictions. They're just evil assholes who deserve to die.
The whole point, especially with Death's Head and Engel, is that you don't kill them by blowing up their facility and trapping them in the inferno. You don't blow up their robot and they die die at that, you know. You don't overrun them. You remove everything they have protecting them, and you kill them one-on-one.
With your bare hands, because they can't stand up. They can't stop you. Like, they're too weak. Yeah. Yeah,
they die like everyone else that you kill. Even I don't know if you did this or not, but on Venus you can kill Hitler.
Wait, you can?
You get a non-standard game over for it. But if you walk when you do the fake fight. Yeah. If you approach Hitler, you can press R3 to do a takedown, and BJ kicks him in the jaw and kills him. Yeah. And then the death robot pumps him full of lead. So you get a non-standard game over for it, but that's fine. you can do it. And again, it's just like all the other villains. You kill him when he's at his lowest, and he has nothing to protect him.
Oh man, that's cool. I wish I'd known that. Man, that's rad. I totally do that. I didn't even think about it. I guess yeah, you can totally just kill Hitler. That's rad. But yeah, and I thought the way Engel went out was just fucking dope. With all of my problems, and I've got a few with the writing at the second half of the new Colossus. The way Engel goes out is great.
It's so satisfying. Oh my god, yes.
So satisfying. Especially because he was... God, I wish I could remember the line right now. But again, I'm just running off of the adrenaline.
He talks about...
Like, you're like among the wolves.
And you're among the wolves, and these are our woods.
Yeah! Oh, that's so good! That's such a good line!
Yeah.
Oh, it's so dope. Like, that part is super, super cool.
And, apparently BJ has a thing of cutting off people's arms, people who have wronged him personally. He cuts off their arms, because he did the same thing with his father.
Yes, because they deserve it. And Star Wars has taught us that that's what you do to people.
It's, and, we kind of skipped over that, but, Rip is also included in that list of villains who are just taken down when they're at their weakest and defenseless.
Yeah, and they, I love the bit when he's got, like, a gun to his head, and he's like, I used to be so scared of you, but now I don't feel a fucking thing. Yeah. And, like, how good was that part?
That was the most satisfying...
Yes, the most satisfying kill in the game.
It's funny because, or it's not funny, but it's, it's interesting because the whole thing where you go back and you learn more about BJ as a child is, again, kind of like the way that I was surprised with how deep the New Order went. I didn't expect them to actually dive at all into BJ's actual... past.
Childhood? Yeah.
To actually see his upbringing, his family, You know, even the trip to the bar, to the farmhouse, where you do all those little memory cutscenes where you see him as a kid, and it's the 20s, which, you know, is I was like caught off guard at like, oh yeah, this guy's 49 years old. Yeah, he was born in 1911. Yeah, he grew up, you know, back when you had farms and you know, rural. You go to market to get your stuff. You didn't have electricity or, you know, refrigerator, like all that, and like, and now it's the 60s where things are a bit more modern, and it really helps show that, you know, that that contrast of how much things have changed.
Yeah, and how different things are, and how, you know, kind of how things are still the same.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, how things haven't changed.
Yeah, with all these racist dickheads and all of this horrible, horrible stuff.
Well, it's you know, and it's like when Rip drops the N-word in like the beginning of the game, I was like, oh my god, wait, this is Wolfenstein.
And oh right, it was 1911, or 1919 in that scene.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, horrible. That happened back then, and they don't sugarcoat it. They don't try to.
And it's Wolfenstein. That's the point. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to make people look at it.
People have said, like, oh, Rip is so much of, like, exaggeration. He's almost a mustache twirler. And it's like, no, that's what how people really did. Are. That's how they were back then.
No, that's how people still are. Come live in Alabama for a little while. You'll see. As you know, that's how people still are. And it's a good way to make people look at it and, like, really look at it and understand that some shit doesn't change. It
would be so cliche, but I want Billy to be in the third game.
Yeah, I would like to see her. I would like to know that she's alive and well, you know? Yeah.
Because he has that line where he's like, Billy, I hope, you know, are you out there still? Are you still living in this world? And I'm like, yeah, are you, Billy?
Please?
Are we going to get you in the third game, Billy?
I would like it really just so that, you know, to kind of be like a fuck you to the whole idea of, like, you know, killing off a little black girl kind of thing. In a story.
Yeah, for sure.
Just as, like, a finger to that, and just have her show up and be a supporting character would be great. You know, being BJ's first, like, real friend in the world, and being a friend to him even at the end of the game would be rad, you know, but we'll see. It would be cliche, but whatever. Wolfenstein lives and dies by cliches, and they make it work, so it's fine. You know?
There's nothing wrong with embracing it sometimes.
It's a little hokey, but that's kind of what Wolfenstein is. Like, the Nazis are pure evil. You know, the Nazis represent pure evil. BJ represents good in the world. And that's just the morality of Wolfenstein, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know? Like, the good guys are flawed, but they're not so aggressively flawed that they're hateable. And the bad guys are nothing but hateable. And that's how, you know, that's how it should be, because that's what Wolfenstein is about. It's what Wolfenstein has always been about, and it's fine.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah. So no, you don't need to humanize the bad guys. The only Nazi who gets humanized is Sigrun, and that's because she stops being a Nazi. You know?
Yeah.
Like that's the whole morality of Wolfenstein, and Klaus is like that too. The only Nazis in the game that are good guys are people who aren't Nazis anymore. They started that way, and they grew up in that world, but then they decided to make a change. Which is really important. This is like an important thing to say. Is like, yeah, the only good fascists are one who aren't fascists anymore, and they quit that.
Exactly.
And they join the side of, like, righteous people to say fuck you to a bunch of fucking swastika wearing dickheads.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, like, the writing, like I said, the writing in the first game and the first half of this game is great.
Alright, so let's get into it then.
The game is really bipolar, and I really despise it. Okay, so here's my problem with this game, and going back again to other Bethesda titles, Dishonored 2 kind of has this problem as well. These are sequels based off of games that Bethesda didn't expect to get quite as so huge as they are. So then they're like, well shit, we made this game that sold really well and was really popular, so let's make a sequel. Let's make it into a trilogy. Except the problem is that you've got, like, 3-act structures kind of work in a certain way. They're supposed to kind of play out in a certain way to make it feel kind of satisfying. And Wolfenstein kind of fucked it up. Like, I get that you can't have it be aggressively sad the whole time, because, like, the overarching plot of the New Order is kind of like a sense of fighting to retain that last glimmer of hope in a dark and horrible world where there's Nazis everywhere trying to, like, smother it out. Like, I get it. You know, like, that's the whole tone. You can't keep that tone going through 2 games, because then it gets a little aggressively sad, especially when it's, like, when you're living in a time where there are actual Nazis in the street, and you want to have some kind of, like, you know, hopeful message at the end of the game. Like, hey, people of America, rise up. That said, the game is super, super bipolar.
Yeah, there's a point where the game stops being sad and starts being fuck yeah.
And they don't meld the sad and the fuck yeah very well. It's just a cutoff point.
And I thought about this, and there is an easy way to fix it. Mm-hmm. And that is to put a level between the trial shootout and BJ getting his body back.
Yeah.
And you do a level where you play as Anya or Bombate or Fergus or whichever one you saved. Mm-hmm. And it is a level where you have this desperation to find the super soldat body that you can use to save BJ.
Right.
You know, you need a cutscene where it would open with Sigrun saying that her mother is a fan of decapitation, and, you know, she is going to obviously execute BJ in public. They have a chance to do this. This is their only opportunity. They have to pull this off right. Make it a more stealth-based thing.
Yeah,
where you're not
ending a little bit more.
Where you're not playing as a behemoth. You know, you're playing as you're still a Nazi-killing badass, but obviously not the bullet tanker that BJ is. Right. So, you know, design levels to be more encouraging around stealth. Maybe limit the number of guns you can actually carry. And
the number of enemies in a level.
Yeah, and it is, you know, go through and save BJ instead of having it be like this sudden, abrupt, we found this body and, you know, we fixed it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just, it kind of comes out of nowhere. It kind of is is such a weird tone shift from BJ being like, seeing, like, you know, having these dreams and seeing his mom and all this stuff to like goofy fun party time.
I've seen it described as the game suddenly becomes a grindhouse film.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, and I don't like it. Like, there's still good moments in there. Like, fuck, I love the whole scene between BJ and Horton. It's, like, the best scene in the game, or at least one of them.
Yeah.
Because that part is, like, a good balance of, like, everybody's exhausted. We're all tired of fighting the Nazis. Horton just wants to, like, go down in a blaze of glory, hallelujah. And BJ's like, no, you can't, you know, we still gotta keep fighting. I'm not gonna raise kids in a goddamn Nazi-run world. You know, so it's like that good balance of, like, idealism and exhaustion because, God, you can't keep fighting forever kind of thing. But, like, then there's just parts where it's like, what am I even playing right now? And on top of the fact that, you know, some of the late game levels I'm not crazy about. I don't know. I just didn't like the second half of Wolfenstein because, again, it kind of fucked up the 2-act structure because, like, or the 3-act structure, excuse me. Because, like, Act 1 is supposed to be, like, the beginning of the journey. Act 2 is, like, your darkest hour and sets up for Act 3 where things are good. So, like...
They reversed it in that Act 1 ends at the darkest point and then Act 2 has the upswing towards something better.
So and then, like, what would the plot structure of 3... I can't even imagine what the plot structure of 3 is going to look like. Like, I know you're leading the rebellion and stuff. That's fine.
I mean, unless they do a happy ending override,
but even
of some kind,
feels not great either. Like, that's not a good. Like, that's kind of the only way they'll have to do it. But then that just feels cheap. It just feels like Samus losing her powers at the end.
Yeah, you'd have to
of every fucking Metroid game.
Yeah, you know? I don't know how they're going to pull off the actual part 3 of the game
Yeah.
You know, how do you make it so that your enemies are still intimidating when you're leading a successful revolution like this?
Mm-hmm. And it's just, you know, I don't know. Like, it feels like that's how the New Order should have ended, but I understand, because the problem is that these sequels happened because they're based off of games that, weren't really, they were kind of gambles. They were IP gambles, like Dishonored and The Evil Within and the Wolfenstein, like a more smartly written Wolfenstein game. So, like, that's why each of these games, I haven't played The Evil Within, sorry, but that's why Dishonored and that's why the New Order have very definitive endings. Dishonored is like, you saved Emily, and, you know, the Empire is either the strongest it's ever been or the weakest it's ever been. Congratulations. And then it shows Corvo's grave, you know, like, that's a pretty, like,
yeah.
very, like, this game, like, congratulations, you have completed this whole story. And Wolfenstein: The New Order ended a similar way with the implied death of BJ. And, like, kind of a hint that he survives with the whole helicopter thing at the end of the credits. Like, you hear helicopters, so it's kind of implied, like, obviously. But they were meant to be definitive ends, because both of those games have very, very good 3-act structures. The beginning of the journey, your darkest hour, the climax, and the resolving, like, the resolution, the resolving actions. All works perfectly. And then both of the sequels to both of these games feel like kind of plot retreads of their first game. What is Dishonored 2 about? Dishonored 2 is about an empress being unseated, specifically Emily, is unseated from her throne, and then one member of the Emily Corvo Watano family is kidnapped, and you have to go out and fight all the people that wronged you to kill the usurper, and that's the end of the game. It's the same fucking plot in 2. And it's kind of a similar plot structure in the new Colossus, where there's a space level. At the end of the game, you take back the Ava's hammer or the Ausmetzer. It's the same thing. And it's kind of like there's, you know, I don't know. It's just they tried to restart the storyline again, so that like 2 and 3 will feel like a complete little thing, and then 1 will feel like a weird prologue. I don't know.
Kind of, yeah, and I feel like part of this is, yeah, because it's uncertain how you can. There's an uncertainty in how how the third game will go, and I think that if the third game was, like, planned already, or if they had, like, a teaser for the next one, where we could kind of get, like, the structure, the ending of the second one wouldn't feel so weird.
It is just a very strange, just a weird plot structure in general. It's such a strange tone shift.
Yeah, because like you said, it's supposed to be like the end of Act 2 is supposed to be the darkest hour, but in here it's kind of like the highest point,
like the high note. Yeah. Yeah,
and so, I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you do for, like, obviously the third one will be kill Hitler. Like, that's going to be the third one. They've set it up. They, you know, it's a Hitler who is in failing health. He is going, he's going out of his mind. He's going to turn into a robot, and you need to kill Hitler.
Right.
Like... So, but, like, how do you make that bad in the beginning so that, you know, there's stakes in it?
What do you, like, the stakes are, I guess, the revolution could succeed or fail, but, like, I don't know, it's just such a strange...
There's no... The game didn't end with a looming threat.
Yeah.
And it's like, you need like to... Even, you know, even if, like, you know, the leading revolution, there could have been, like, a thing at the end of, like, the post-credits where it's, oh, you know, your revolution is going well now, but we have this!
Right, you know, we've got a fucking Nazi mecha. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, and I like the second half because I thought it was very cathartic to see BJ actually being happy for once in his goddamn life.
Right. Like,
I liked the party because it was fun and stupid, and, it was nice to see these characters actually get a chance to do something fun.
Right.
But, you can't keep that up. Just like you can't keep the darkness up, they couldn't end Wolfenstein 2 any worse than they ended Wolfenstein 1.
Right.
But
I feel like the party should have been like a thing that was in 3,
Yeah, I can feel that.
We're at the end of our long, dark struggle. Let's, we'll have BJ's birthday party and we'll all goof off.
Yeah, I can see that,
Yeah, I just feel, and I understand, like, the need for some levity, but the levity happens...
It's so quick.
It happens really quickly. And 2, it's even kind of sticking its nose into, like, the beginning of the game, where, like, you have these goofy, jokey joke moments, like, breaking up, like, more kind of, like, heartfelt things. And, like, the New Order had that, but not quite to the same degree with, like, shit jokes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Super Spesh talking about how he just blew out the toilet, like, in the middle of kind of a moment, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You're like, whatever, this is fine, I guess. Maybe I'm just a snob. I don't know.
You might be a story snob at that point, because
I might be a story snob.
I feel like that particular moment, the one you're talking about, is like, it also kind of worked because, like, it illustrated that in that moment that, like, because BJ and Nani are trying to have a conversation about something, and it helps illustrate that they can't. They don't have the time or the ability to deal with this problem, in a way. Like, they don't have a place they can go to be quiet with each other. They don't have the time or the the means to actually go and sort things out. They can't. So they have to.
Right.
They're going to have to, burden whatever thing they have.
Yeah, and I get that. I do. I might just be a snob. I'm probably just a snob. It's okay. I've kind of made peace with that. But I just really, really liked the overall tone of the New Order, like, a lot. And I just don't think the new Colossus handled it quite as well. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I really, really think, like I mentioned, they should have had a level between, right after the trial shootout. They should have had a level, and that would have bridged the gap and made it much more easier to accept.
I completely agree, because, like, that is kind of like the darkest, like, if, like, so, like, this is a trilogy, but every entry in a trilogy has to also have its own 3-act structure. And that would have, like, I get that BJ's execution is technically the darkest hour of the story, and I do. But it's so hard to go from, like, darkest hour to, yay, happy fun times, look, I've got robots, look, we're having a birthday party, all this good stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because, like, they put their darkest hour less at the end of the second act and more right in the middle of the story.
It's the dead middle of the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus it would have made the game a little bit longer, because I'm a little sore that I spent...
It's
my own fault. I don't usually buy new games unless I know they're going to be long. But it is a really short video game.
It's really, really short. It's like on the longer half of 10 hours.
Yeah. And that's... yeah.
And I mean,
$60.
you can do all the assassination missions, but those don't really add
much.
A lot of depth to it. It's mostly busy work.
Yeah, it's just a way to kind of to make the how long to beat score.
Yeah. And I guess the DLC is going to add to that, and I think they're actually giving out the episode 0 for free.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, but maybe the first 2 episodes should be free.
Yeah, but, like, it's a very short game.
It's a short game.
One of the things I can definitely say against it is, it's really short for a full price game.
It's $60 fucking dollars. It's a lot of money for not a lot of game. And I understand that they don't want to add multiplayer. That's fine.
That's good. I approve of them not adding multiplayer, but also add more single player then.
add more content. You clearly didn't. There's enough fucking halls and facilities. You could have put one more.
Yeah.
And just to have a little bit more going on to kind of break the game up. I'm just not... I really liked the new Colossus, but not as much as I fucking loved the New Order. Which is probably the only... Because I fucking love the New Order. I love every second of that. I don't think it has a down moment. I don't think it has a moment I hate. I mean, yeah, the last level is hard, but it's satisfying when you're done with it. So yeah... And oh, my other thing, because you brought it up a few times now, and I gotta get this off my chest, dude. Don't fucking make me play a dream sequence and then kill me off in it 4,000 times. Alright? Like, ooh, that... I hate that sequence so... Because it's a dream, and you're gonna keep... I played that sequence like 15 times.
It took me a couple of times to actually get the pattern down.
And then they're like, "Oh, it didn't actually happen. Hey, it was all just a dream BJ was having." And
they should have turned that into a bridging level.
Yeah.
Instead.
They should have done something. Because that I got so mad. Like, I knew, like, I was kind of like, wait, what's going on? And then I realized it was a dream about the time I realized I saw his mom. I was like, wait, what? Because there's, like, a small ghost in the back of my head that maybe they brought her. But then it's like, no, he can't walk. Like, I know, you brought that up to me.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about it in the moment. I was thinking, kill Nazis.
Well, that was... the first thing I thought of when he breaks out is... And he picks up the gun, and I'm like, wait a minute. BJ can't walk.
Right, yeah. And, like, yeah, I know this. Like, but at the time, I was so in the moment, I didn't even think about it, because that's kind of how Wolfenstein works. It's like, go, 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 run, run, run. And then I got to his mom, and I was like, well, there's always a chance that they, like, brought her out of whatever camp they were keeping her in to, like, torture him a little bit more. And then about 15 seconds into that sequence, it's like, oh, this is a dream. Oh, yeah, this is a dream. Oh, I just got my ass kicked over and over again in a fucking dream. No thanks. You bastards. Don't do that to me, machine games. Don't make me struggle like that for a dream sequence.
Now, that being said, the level itself is fucking great.
Looks good. Looks nice.
It's
very
like,
small.
No, I mean, like, once you get over that initial hurdle and, like, you get your rhythm back.
Yeah.
That's fucking fun to play.
It's fucking fun to play. It's a good kind of, like, horde mode, I guess, where you're dealing with, like waves and waves of Nazis, and you're kind of like, well, now I have a machine, like, I've got a gun. Cool. Like, I've got, like, a handgun. Well, now I've got my, my machine, my SMG. Cool. Now I've got an assault rifle. Hey, now I've got a minigun. It's just kind of like this slow rebuilding of resources, and, like, that was a lot of fun. But yeah... And it looked great. I mean, that was one of those rare times where it was in, like, a really cool level design with the whole courtroom, and it was very, like, open, and that was really cool. Like, God, the design in this game, that's the part I could probably keep talking about. But, yeah, I still really like the new Colossus, and I think you should buy the new Colossus, but you should wait until it's on sale. Actually, I think it's already on sale for PC, so I'm kind of cheesed off about that.
It might already be on sale, like, for PC.
Yeah, it's like a Thanksgiving sale thing, so go Google that. I think I saw that when I was looking up things earlier today. So if you can get it on sale for like $40, go get it. I think it's worth $40. I don't think it's worth $60. Is that a weird distinction to make?
No, I don't think so. I think that's a fair thing to say. I think you need to. There's a kind of a thing going around online right now where it's like, how do you calculate the worth of a game? Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, you can't really calculate a game's worth on time because it fluctuates so, much because of, player control. Right. And, like, how skilled the player is, can make your hour count vary. But, like, the Wolfenstein, the new Colossus is it's way too short for a $60 game. It's
shorter than the New Order. So, like, if you can't make it as long as the New Order, you did something wrong. Like, because that game came out, and it was long enough, and it was $60, and even then, like, I would still feel kind of cheated if I had bought it for $60. I got it for $20 instead, so I don't feel so bad about it. But even then, like, that game was, I think, too short for a full-price game, and the new Colossus is shorter than that. So take that as what you will. But otherwise, I really enjoyed the new Colossus. If you can get it on sale, you should absolutely get it. It's a lot of fun. They refined the formula, like the play formula of the game, really, really well. I love all the weapon upgrades.
Yes!
I like the upgrade system a lot.
It's great because, you know, what I really liked about this weapon upgrade system, and again, it's kind of banking off of what you expect from a game like this, is that the weapon upgrade system you get isn't so much as, like, a lot of games with their weapon trees will now be like, oh, you can shoot, you know, your gun will be stronger, but you'll shoot less bullets. Or you can add this mod that will turn your bullets into heat rounds, but they'll be slower to fire, or it'll consume more ammo. Wolfenstein, except for one upgrade for each gun, is like, no, it's a straight upgrade. You have more, you can hold more shells now. It'll do more damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just like, that's very satisfying.
Oh yeah, you just, because again, this is a game built around, like, fucking kill them all, you know?
Yeah, this is a game that's very much more based on, like, assault than defense.
Yeah, and, I very much enjoyed playing the game, like, a lot. I really like playing these games, because they're fast, they're fun. They make me want to play Doom really badly, so I'll probably play Doom at some point, and we'll talk about it. I mean, there's less to talk about plot-wise in Doom, but,
Now,
yes.
Someone suggested something.
That they're in the same universe?
Well, no, of course they're in the same universe. That's much as canon. Because, Doom Guy is BJ's great-grandson.
Right.
But someone suggested that if they keep up the trend in Wolfenstein 3 of going to a different planet, what if you go to Mars and you fight demons that have been summoned by the Nazis?
That would be cool, because it would be something kind of different.
Yes.
Yes, bring it on. I would love to fight Nazi demons. Are you kidding me? That'd be rad. I'm totally cool with that. Like, I don't mind the space. Oh man, we didn't even talk about how great at least the intro to Venus is. Like,
oh yeah, we should do that, because that's fucking.
That's like one of the best parts of the game. You
killed
for
Ronald
sure. Reagan. I can't believe Adolf Hitler actually did that universe one single favor. Adolf Hitler did one good thing for the Wolfenstein world. He's still a monster, but he's a monster who killed Ronald Reagan. So, thanks.
Now, and I mean, like, I know you talked about, like, the jokey jokes bit, but come on, BJ wearing a dumb fake mustache and...
That part was good. No, that part was great.
Deadpanning every line.
And no, that part was amazing, for sure. And all the different goofy actors. And I don't know why I was laughing so hard at, like, the guy who goes after BJ when he does his line reading. And, like, the director is so just like, take me now. You know, like, she's so like,
enamored by it.
Yeah, like, that part was amazing. It was just, that was good comedy writing, because it was so good, and like the whole bit with Hitler just being super gross was just done perfectly, because he's just this sad, pathetic shell of a man, which is exactly how Hitler should always be portrayed in video games.
And, you know, like, but like I mentioned, like, you know, yeah, he's senile, and he is stumbling and coughing up blood, and he just pulls out his dick and pees in a bucket.
Right.
And then he shoots, like, 3 guys.
Yeah, and so he's still a little threatening.
Yeah, there's still an intimidation factor, and they didn't make him a complete joke. He's still a threat.
Right.
But it's more because he's completely unhinged now.
Right, and it's like, BJ tanks bullet rounds. Shoot me, see what happens, you know? Like, I dare you.
Yeah.
So it's fine. And yeah, that whole sequence was great, because BJ and his fucking terrible mustache and his dyed hair.
You notice that he has to wear a turtleneck to cover up the ring around his neck.
I love the ring around his neck. It's like a slutty choker. I'm into it.
The bit where him and Anya are driving to the space station and they have the actor tied up behind, you know, the back seat.
Yeah, you a Nazi? Yeah. Yeah, the part was so good.
That and the bit where BJ gets the keys to the little bike thing in Roswell.
Yes.
And he has his gun to the Nazi's back, and he just nudges him to run.
He's just like, run. Like, that part was so good. I wanted to drive the motorcycle. And
I would have liked that.
The part riding the dog didn't last longer. How do you not keep the dog?
Yeah, that should have been a much longer sequence. That was so much fun.
It was fun, and it was too short, and I wanted to keep... How do you hotwire a cool fucking Nazi giant robot dog thing, and you don't find a way to get it on your boat? He could have hung out in the fucking hangar with the helicopters. He could have been our buddy. You know?
For sure,
There's babies on the way. They need a dog.
Yeah. If BJ's going to have the nuclear family, he needs a dog. Why not a giant death robot dog?
It works perfectly considering the family.
Right?
Considering Anya and BJ, yeah, they need a giant murder dog for sure. Cause it was great, and the part where BJ's like, "Sorry, dog, you're too big." I'm like, "No, he's not. Make a hole.
Make it fit.
You make it fit, BJ Blazkowicz. You make this work, cause he's a friend. All right. Poor dog, poor robot dog. What else? I feel like...
how about Anya topless, covered in blood, shooting robots to death?
A little much.
A little... And even she says even she mentions that it was a little too extreme for her.
She's like, I think I'm done after that. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I think you are too, honey. That was a bit much. It was almost cartoonishly, and I mean, again, this is a game that's about being cartoonishly over the top. But fuck you, my grenades have never done that much damage, ever.
Yeah, that was a cutscene grenade.
That was a cutscene grenade, and I want those grenades. Because my grenades always seem to, vaporize one dude, and that's it. And also the fact that she could just, dual wield those assault rifles and take out the dog thing, when that thing usually, chews my ass up for dinner. No. But it's fine. It's Wolfenstein.
It was a good cap onto all of that.
It was ridiculous, and it worked. But it was a bit much. At the same time, I was kind of like, really? Okay, I guess we're doing this. It's fine. It's fine. I wanted more of Horton. Horton was probably my new favorite character.
I did like the broadcast at the end was both Grace and Horton, going off of each other.
Yes, that part was great.
It was very clear they didn't plan it,
Yeah.
They didn't plan their little speeches, but they just rolled off of each other so well. It was great.
It was super fun because, like I said, Horton is radical. Horton is my favorite new character in the game. I am kind of, in the first game I picked Fergus, in the New Order I picked Fergus. And I think his plot line in the New Order was better. I went back and I watched all the scenes in the new Colossus with Wyatt instead, and it's a way better story than Fergus's. A way more interesting story, so I'm kind of I should have picked Wyatt. What the fuck? Because I actually really like Wyatt in the new Colossus, a lot. Having watched
I've seen a lot of him, and I picked Fergus for both games too, but I went back and looked into Wyatt a bit more, and yeah, he does have a much more interesting character arc in the new Colossus.
And his story, I think part of it is that, his storyline kind of keeps it a little bit more, kind of keeps the game more tonally consistent with the New Order, because, I mean, he tries to kill himself in one part at the very end of the new Colossus. And because he's kind of having a mental breakdown because he's having a very bad trip, and he threatens to kill himself because he just can't kind of keep fighting like this anymore because he's such a shell of the person he was. And that was a pretty good little scene. It's written very well, and they somehow managed to make it work even while BJ is still wearing his goofy party hat. And then at the end of it, when Wyatt's kind of coming down from this bad trip, he's BJ's I love you, man. And I'm like, oh, what? That's so sweet. And I actually really liked Wyatt's story a lot more at the end of the day. So, good job, guys. You actually made me end up liking Wyatt more than Fergus by the end of the new Colossus. That's cool. I didn't think that was possible because Fergus in the New Order is amazing.
Fergus is amazing in both games, to be fair.
Yes. But he's really, really great in the New Order, and Wyatt kind of outshines him in the new Colossus. By the way, we gotta come up with a better naming structure here, guys. I can't keep saying the new thing.
Yeah, like, what are you gonna make the third one?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I guess, like, the New America or something.
Something like that, yeah.
The New World Order. But,
isn't that... Yeah. But, yeah, I'm... You know, whatever you say about the second half of the new Colossus, like, I'm really excited to see...
I'm pumped to see where this goes, yes.
Yeah. Like, they've really, really endeared me to this series that I always kind of treated as sort of like a distant joke, you know?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, it's Wolfenstein. It's not that serious.
It's not that big a deal. And then,
yeah.
You know, we got this, you know, and again, it's part of that whole thing we talked about with Resident Evil 7 and with Nier, where it's like you're reviving these old these franchises that have been, you know, down.
And you're doing it in a really, in an unexpected way. I really did not expect, even having heard about, like, the fact that the New Order took a more grounded approach to the writing, or at least a more human approach to the writing when it comes to the main characters. I still didn't expect it to kind of, like, really resonate with me the way it did. But no, by the end of the game, it was really, like... I was really impressed by how emotionally invested I was in the story. So yeah, like, that's the big thing, is that we've seen with Nier, we've seen with Resident Evil 7, and now we've seen with Wolfenstein, kind of this retreading of an old franchise in a new and interesting way. And I really dig it. I'm into it. Like, yeah, good job.
Oh yeah, like, 100%. Like, yeah, I'm fully invested in this, and I'm really, really excited to see... I fucking don't kill BJ in the end of the third game.
Don't kill BJ at the end of this third fucking game. You better not. After all the amount of after all the fucking times you've made me, I had to replay that dream sequence just for the dream sequence alone. You better not kill BJ, because it's like I had to suffer through that whole sequence so that BJ could be reborn in a new body. You had better give me a happy ending for this sad sack of a man, okay? And his fucking incredible everything. And bring back the beard.
Yes.
Bring back BJ's beard. It was pretty sexy. So do me that favor. Yeah. I feel like, there's so many other little things we could talk about, but they're inconsequential things. Like, I really like the character writing. I like Set a lot. I like Set more.
Set's a great character.
I like Set more in the New Order than I do in the New Colossus, but that's fine. Yeah. Just overall... Oh, and the twist is not a twist, by the way. Like, the thing with BJ's body is not a twist at all. Like,
no, it's on the box.
It's on the box, and for two, people on the internet who are like, the big twist of New Colossus is not a twist at all, because they talk about it within the first, like, hour of the game. Like, the first
thing you see is BJ's like, my body is dying, and then Set's like, look, I put a cat head on a monkey body.
Because the cat's body was dying. Do you get it?
And then smart players go, oh, this will happen to make sure BJ doesn't die.
Yeah, it's obvious. So no, it wasn't a twist at all. Yeah. But otherwise, I really enjoyed all of the New Colossus. Play it when it's on sale. Buy it. Yeah.
I wonder if they had moved the body thing up to, like, after the first, like, the second mission, maybe? If that would have been better.
I think I would have preferred it if you had spent the whole... If the game had ended like that.
Oh, if the game had ended with the body switch?
Yeah. And then the third game was like... If it had been like... You do this whole thing, you kill Angle... I don't know. I don't really know. Like, I'm not a writer. I'm not anything.
Well, you know what? And you know what? The other thing is, the other thing I think they should have done is, if they're going to do that, they should have put way more emphasis on BJ's return. Like, his public return after his execution should have been played up more.
Like, him showing up on TV in front of millions and millions of people helps. But, like, I definitely think it would have been great if, like, you played the whole game, like, all of the stuff with Louisiana and stuff, you played the whole game in the suit, right? And then it ends, like, BJ gets taken by the Nazis after Louisiana or whatever. Or after fucking shit. I'm trying to think, like, all the different little plots. Basically,
after Venus.
after Venus, yeah, or whatever, or after the Roswell, all that shit. Basically after, like, let the last mission of the Ausmetzer thing, let that be the first time BJ takes his new body out for a spin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could have worked too.
That would have worked, and then it's like, you know, you're ending the game on a high note, but it's at the very, very end of the game. So you've spent pretty much the entirety of the second game in your quote-unquote darkest part of the story. And then it ends on a high note with BJ being like, I got a new body, fuckers, and I'm not dead yet. And then I think I would have been able to, like, resolve it a little better. And then all of the third game would be about BJ's new body and not being dead and blah-de-blah-de-blah. And that's just me spitballing, like, really, really fast.
Yeah.
I just think, I think that would have handled it a little bit better. You know?
I like I said, I like
the
them,
moments of levity.
I like the upswing after, because even the old blood is a very dark story, and it sets up there's a lot of downfall in it. So, like, I like the upswing that it ends on, but it did happen way too abruptly to make it
very abruptly.
Yeah, there need to be more of a slower shift into, you know, either having a level between that, or, you know, having BJ's head being alive, and you play a level, well, you know, maybe you just play a level as someone else before you can just automatically attach the body back on, you know?
Yeah.
Something to make it less, you know, to go from the brutal decapitation of BJ to putting his head on a cyborg body and letting him go to town.
Yeah.
There needed to be a better bridge than just having it happen right away.
Right, exactly. And I mean, even, you know, you could still have, like, the goofy party sequences and stuff, like if BJ's in the suit that Carolyn leaves him. You know, you could still have all that fun and just write it off as BJ being like, well, I'm dying, so I might as well enjoy the time I've got. And then have the game end, you know, like the second to last mission end on BJ getting his head chopped off. And then, have the final mission be like a victory lap, you know?
Yeah.
Just something. I don't know. Because the shift is so abrupt, like you said, but whatever. That's like my big major, like that's like my major critique of the story, because everything else, honestly, like I like all the new characters, I like all this, like the big set piece moments are good. So yeah, Wolfenstein 2.
Wolfenstein. Play
Pretty
Wolfenstein,
good.
Everyone. It's a pretty good game, and it's cathartic because you get to kill a lot of Nazis, and all of them deserve it.
Exactly. And all of the axe kill. Honestly, my other complaint is that I wanted those axe kills to be a little bit more brutal, frankly.
Yeah, but they also need to be quick so you could move on right away. But
I know.
You know, taking a guy's legs off is pretty good, and then planting a hatchet
satisfying
into his back, yeah.
Yeah, the one where BJ swings directly up between his legs, I'm always like, yes! Say auf Wiedersehen to your Nazi balls!
Yeah, and, you know, the greatest axe kill of all is Frau Engel, where you split her skull in half, and then you pull it out so her eyeball falls out.
It's so good. Thank you.
And, you know, you do that on TV where her daughter can see, even though she said she wouldn't be a part of it.
But even then,
yeah,
it's great. So yeah.
It's, oh my god, it's so...
satisfying. Finger kiss. So yeah. Yeah.
And hopefully in the third game we get to kill the Beatles.
I do. That's probably, like, that would round out my list of, like, because, like, in the first game, they killed off Jimi Hendrix, and in this game, they killed off Ronald Reagan, so, like, maybe we'll kill the Beatles?
Yeah, I mean, yeah that'd be fun.
That, or, like, I said, what'd I tell you, like, Henry Kissinger. I'd like to see Henry, I think if anybody deserves to die horribly, it's Henry of, like, historical figures from, like, that time period. I really would like to see Henry Kissinger take an axe to the back of the head. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, that's it.
But, yeah, that'll be it for us. Thanks to Visager for use of our background music. We have a Twitter at The Gorge Podcast. You can send us an email about how you think killing Nazis is the best at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com. Sarah, you have another podcast. What's that podcast about?
Hey, I'm in another podcast. It's called Big Gay Nerds. It's me and a bunch of cool friends sit around and we try out various RPG systems. Once a month we try out different things. It's just it's a pen and paper game where me and a bunch of other queer friends play video games. You should come check us out. Not video games, whatever. You should come check us out. We're at Big Gay Nerds on SoundCloud. We're at Big Gay Nerds Cast on Twitter. We're at Big Gay Nerds on Tumblr. And it's a lot of fun. Thanks.
Yep, so that'll do it for us. This one's easy. Fuck Nazis.
Fuck Nazis. This one's the easiest one I think we have ever had. Like, put that one on a t-shirt, sell it to everybody, make sure the whole fucking world knows. Even Pete Hines at Bethesda says it. Fuck Nazis.
Good night, everyone.